Hello and welcome to our ASU cast, where we will be discussing all things MEBs, that's multi-employer bargaining. I'm Emma Hart, a new ASU delegate at City of Melbourne, and I'm here in the studio today with Mel Van Dyke, ASU delegate at Yarra City Council, and ASU lead organiser Philippa Bock, and ASU secretary of the Vic Tas branch, Tash Walk. Hello, Mel, Philippa and Tash.
Hi, Emma.
Hi, Emma.
So let's start at the beginning. Briefly, Tash, how did the ASU get to the point of proposing an MEB for local government, and what is multi-employer bargaining?
Thanks, Emma. So basically, multi-employer bargaining is when you've got more than two workplaces bargaining under the same agreement. And we haven't done it before in local government. We've done it in some of our other industries. The legislation changed not that long ago. So really, this is the first round of having a whole lot of workplaces that can bargain together. So that's what we're aiming to do. We know that we get good outcomes when we do single enterprise bargaining. So that's council by council. But we think putting everyone together and kind of having that collective power across multiple workplaces will get better outcomes.
Fantastic. And when did this this is pretty new stuff we're talking about. When did this legislation come into effect?
So June last year, so 30th of June last year was when it came into effect. We've had one agreement in regional area, like between two regional councils go forward. We got an authorisation for that from a full bench of the Fair Work Commission. One of those councils consented. The other one is going to appeal that decision. So we're in the throes of kind of working that out. But this year, as I said, it's a big bargaining year, so we can go further with it.
Sounds like a juicy situation. Good to start with a win. Mel, did you want to ask some questions?
Yeah. So let's talk about the broader context of the introduction of MEBs, in particular the erosion of employee bargaining power with single enterprise agreements. So since 2018, CPI in Melbourne has outstripped EA pay increases by a whopping 130%.
Yeah, we absolutely know that over the last years, wages have been overtaken by CPI. The average real wages in Australia have fallen by over 5%. In local government, we've definitely seen this. We've had really low wage outcomes generally because of the rate capping by the state government in Victoria. And we know that council workers here in Vic really need a pay rise. Councils have been starved of funds for years, and this impacts wages and conditions. We are wanting to start MEBs because we'll have more bargaining power, which will equate to more pay in the long run.
And there is precedent for this sort of multi-employer bargaining overseas as well, that has led to like much better outcomes. It's sort of not a new thing necessarily, but it is new for Australia. Is that?
That's correct, yes. We haven't seen it before in Australia in this way. There has been multi-employer bargaining before, but you couldn't take any industrial action under that system. So the benefits of being able to take united industrial action across the entire sector of local government will be a huge boost for the power of local government workers to achieve a fair wage increase.
So focusing on the multi-employer aspect, which councils would be included in an MEB?
So what we're proposing and what we're going to get out there and talk to workers about is 11 of the big metro councils that are due to bargain this year and are all expiring around mid-year. So who that includes is Yarra, where you work, Melbourne, where Emma is, Darebin, Marybeck, Banyule, Port Phillip, Brimbank, Hobsons Bay, Maribyrnong, Dandenong and Hume. That's a process that will kind of.
And then
work
all 79
through.
or 76 or what have you. All of them. Yeah, right.
Yeah, that will follow. No, we'll see how we go. Yeah, but I guess this is something we haven't been able to do this in local government before. We have been able to do this in some of our other industries because the legislation has allowed for that. So we do have a history of kind of bringing these agreements together and making them work in our community sector coverage. So really it's the same kind of thing. Local government members haven't had the opportunity to use these provisions, so it's really exciting.
Very exciting.
Huge. So looking at what an MEB would look like in practice, what are the main differences between an MEB and a single employer EBA?
Well, the first main difference is obviously that we would be bringing multiple employers together. And this would be multiple employers that have currently got single enterprise agreements. So currently each agreement only covers one employer. We will be bringing multiple into the same agreement. So there will be a different structure to this agreement than there would be to previous agreements. What we're proposing, and is yet to be determined because this will be a process of consultation with delegates and members across the workplaces, will be probably having a shared main body or core agreement between the councils that will have common conditions such as quantum pay increases and any other conditions that are shared across the different sites.
Quantum pay increases sounds very futuristic. What is that?
Quantum pay increases is basically the percentage pay increases for each year. So that's a really good question. It's lingo that I use all the time, but the reality is it's the percentages that would be applied to the wages each year, and the proposal would be that they'd be common across all the different councils involved in the MEB. Then we would have appendices for individual council conditions where we would have references to the predecessor agreement, so no one would lose any conditions overall, and there might be some wins that improve conditions at that particular site that are specific to that site as well.
Yes, so as an example at City of Melbourne, and this is sort of just an idea floating around for now, but we have Schedule A/AA, so that means employees who are hired after 2018 don't get the pay increments, basically, which is a really wild two-tier system to have in place. Yes.
Shame indeed. I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So what we could do is we could sort of enshrine having increments, that everyone has to have increments of some kind in the sort of shared part, and that would do away with that issue for City of Melbourne. Is that, I mean, if it worked, just an idea.
That's definitely a goal, and I think a benefit of MEBs is that they can only be put to vote with the approval of the union. So the ability to negotiate to improve these sorts of things, such as this Schedule A, AA issue, will be significantly increased and will have a lot more bargaining power.
Yeah, and then the individual parts of the agreement that will be sort of particular individual councils mean that they can still have things they fought for in sort of that kind of sense.
That's correct, yeah. No council worker will be worse off under these provisions or these new agreements.
Yeah, that all sounds pretty positive and exciting. So let me ask about, what about the challenges? So, for example, with the centralisation of power, how will delegates from each council be represented to make sure that it's a fair democratic process?
That's a really good question. And obviously when we bargain in a single enterprise kind of setting, like we always want to make sure it's a democratic process and like members are being consulted, delegates are involved in decision making. It'll be the same kind of thing on a bigger scale. So we want to make sure that there's delegates from each of the councils at the bargaining table. We might have to set up some things a little bit differently with report backs and that kind of stuff. But we'll work with the delegates from each of those MEB councils to determine what that representation kind of looks like. And then, that role in bargaining, the role in kind of consulting back with members as it goes. And then we get to that point of a final vote. We would make sure that, we require all members at each MEB council to endorse a final offer before it's agreed to go to the vote, which we now control. Yeah.
Woohoo. I mean, it does seem like there are some pretty significant, exciting things about this new approach. So in practical terms, what are the next steps in here? I know that all of the metro councils, as you mentioned, all of the EBAs come up for renegotiation this year.
So the first step is for members to decide if they want to pursue an MEB at each worksite. So this week, starting tomorrow, which is Tuesday the 4th of February, we'll be holding member meetings right across those 11 councils this week. It's pretty exciting. It's the biggest rollout of member meetings we've done in a very long time. And if members should endorse this plan, then the next step will be to get a petition signed by a majority of each employees at each of these councils. The petition would indicate the support of employees to pursue an MEB in their workplace. The petition's also really important because it's the necessary legal step for the Fair Work Commission to authorise the MEB.
Yep.
The other option might be for the employers to consent, but we know what councils are like, and we're not anticipating many are going to consent to this because they know that workers are going to have a lot more power in this process. So we anticipate that petitions are going to be required, so we'll be kicking off that process this week as well, pending the endorsement by members for the purposes of pursuing an MEB. We will need also, I suppose another ask, and I'll plug that now, is that we'll need all members to help with this. We want members to talk to your colleagues about this, to get them to sign the petition and to share the petition with their colleagues as well.
Yes, absolutely. Members and non-members need to sign the petition, so everyone will
Get it out there. So, speaking of getting it out there, where can members find more information?
Excellent. So we really encourage people to jump onto the ASU website. There's lots of information there that answers like all the questions, because obviously this is a new thing. The easiest way to find that is just to Google ASU Vic Tas, council workers need a pay rise. Pretty easy to remember. Yeah, council workers need a pay rise.
We sure do.
Yeah. So we really encourage, as we said before, like Philippa kind of covered, but yeah, we encourage members to talk to an ASU delegate as well, like our workplace reps. You know, we've done sessions with people, you know, if delegates we can know where to go to get more answers if needed. Yeah, just spread the word. Like, it's going to be really important.
And is there anything that you'd like to say, Tash or Philippa? Is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up today's convo?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing is that this is going to be driven by members and workers in councils. Member engagement is critical to this plan succeeding. So we really ask all members to ask 2 of your colleagues to sign the petition, which is available on the website. Council workers need a pay rise. So yeah, it's about spreading the word and getting it out there, because a majority sounds like a lot, but it is very achievable.
This is also coming off the back of really unprecedented amounts of industrial action across local government, both in Victoria and Tassie, I want to say, although this is obviously a Melbourne agreement. So, you know, we've got members at Stonington who've just been taking action. We've got Glenelg who are about to start taking action. We've got Bendigo that's just voted up protected industrial action. It's off the back of years of members like really pushing back against, you know, really poor quality pay rises and trying to undermine conditions. So I think that's the other thing, like we feel like this is really the right time to do it, is members are activated. We're really proud of all the efforts that they're making. But, you know, we've got to kind of crack through. Councils are the same kinds of employers ultimately. Like, this is, you know, a good way to try and bring them all in together.
So a really exciting opportunity at a really exciting time. So I think we've pretty much covered all of today's points. So we'll wrap up today's convo. So thank you so much for listening to our ASU cast. This is a bit of an experiment. So if you enjoyed today's episode or if you found it useful, please let us know. But mostly a huge thank you to our guests today. I'd like to say thank you to City of Yarra Delegate Mel Van Dyke, ASU Lead Organiser Philippa Volk, and ASU Secretary Tash Wok. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us along.
Thanks, Emma.
And also thank you to all of the delegates who contributed questions for today's conversation as well. And yeah, just to reiterate, you can get in touch with the ASU at asuvictas.org.au, is that right?
.com.au.
ASU, thank you very much. Should have written that one down. And yeah, if you're not a member, there has never been a better time to join in on this exciting fight. Council workers need a pay rise. Stay staunch, and thanks for listening.